Most of what I share here starts from the opposite question. What was worth it? What earned its place? What I'd buy again without hesitation? But intention isn't only built from the things that worked, it's also built from the things that didn't and from sitting with why. So today I want to do something a little different. I want to go through 10 things I regret buying, not to embarrass myself, but because each one taught me something about how I choose and what I was actually choosing for. Some of these are about the object itself. Some are about who I thought I was when I bought them. A few aren't even regrets in the traditional sense, but they all stayed with me long enough to be worth talking about. I'll start with the one that bothers me the most. A pair of Prada rubber rain boots. I do need rain boots. That part was never the issue. Living where I do, a proper pair is a practical requirement, not a luxury. But this pair from Prada just isn't built well. The whole boot is rubber, including the liner, and there's no material transition anywhere to soften that, which means putting them on and taking them off is a fight every single time. The resistance is that strong. And once they're on, my socks slide and bunch from the friction instead of staying in place. I keep thinking that Hunter, a brand that isn't even positioned as luxury, might have solved this better. And that's the real lesson here. Price and prestige don't automatically translate to comfort or thoughtful construction. Sometimes the simpler, less expensive option was built by someone who actually thought about how a foot moves inside a boot. 8 years ago, I bought a biker jacket from Paul Smith. I think almost everyone goes through a phase of wanting that identity. The leather, the edge, the rebellious cool. I just arrived at mine a little later than most, and I've probably worn this jacket a handful of times in 8 years. At this point, I don't wear it at all. It was never about the brand. Paul Smith makes it well. It's about the character the jacket represents, and that character was never actually mine. It was a version of cool that sold me on itself, rather than something I built from who I already was. That's a distinction I didn't understand back then. Buying into a look and buying into yourself are two very different decisions, even when they happen at the same cash register. At one point, I owned 8 pairs of Common Project sneakers. 3 of them were different shades of gray. I don't regret loving the brand, I still do. What I regret is the decision to keep buying more of them, one color at a time, mostly because of how good they looked lined up next to each other. There's a kind of eye candy effect when you see the same silhouette in a row of different colors, and I let that pull me further than it should have. The irony is that owning that many left me with decision fatigue instead of ease. When several pairs look nearly identical, choosing between them in the morning isn't simpler, it's harder. I ended up wearing them less, which was the opposite of what more choice was supposed to give me. Over time, my taste shifted too, and some of those colors stopped working with the rest of my wardrobe. I've since sold 5 pairs and kept 3. One of those 3 is a pink pair that matches my daughter's, which is the only reason it's still around. I'm still considering letting that one go as well, since I don't reach for it anymore either. A similar pattern shows up with a handful of Cooee vases and candle holders I bought over time. I think I made the same mistake here that I made with the sneakers. I prioritized the object over the space that was supposed to hold it. I bought several of them in subtle variations of gray, and now looking at them in the rooms I actually live in, some just feel out of place. The design is plain enough that without the right context, it starts to lose whatever character it once had. It becomes minimal without meaning, which isn't the same as minimal with intention. I've tried finding new spots for them. Nothing has felt right. At this point, I'd rather leave a surface undecorated than keep compromising just to justify having them. Empty space isn't a failure to fill. Sometimes it's the more honest choice. I want to be upfront that I'm still Aesop's biggest fan. This isn't a brand regret, it's a specific product regret, and a pricier one. I've tried a wide range of their skincare over the years, and at some point I realized I was forcing myself to like certain products rather than actually feeling the results. My skin still felt dry. Nothing seemed to improve, no matter how long I gave it. I told myself I probably just needed to be more patient, to use it longer term. And then I tried a few K-beauty products almost by accident, and my skin felt noticeably more comfortable almost right away. That was the moment it clicked for me. Cost isn't a guarantee of fit, especially in skincare. The right product for your skin has very little to do with the price on the shelf. To be clear, I still use Aesop's hand soap, hair gel, hand cream, and shaving oil regularly. It's really just their moisturizing cream that never earned its place for me. 14 years ago, on a trip to Taipei, I bought a YSL zip wallet. I still have it. This one is different from the others because I wouldn't call it a full regret the way I would the rain boots. I loved it when I first got it, but my everyday carry preferences have shifted so much since then. If you've watched my EDC video from last year, you already know I lean toward carrying very little, only the essentials, as compact as possible. This wallet sits at the exact opposite end of that spectrum. I used to justify keeping it for travel, telling myself I'd use it on trips. But I already have a travel passport case that holds my passport, backup cards, and ID, and it's more compact than this wallet ever was. So the justification never really held up. I won't get rid of it, there's too much sentimental value built up over the years I actually carried it. But I'm not using it either, and I think that's its own kind of a regret, the quiet kind where nothing went wrong, you just grew in a different direction. This one comes with a caveat. I never actually bought any of these art prints myself. They were gifted to me by various brands over the years. So calling them purchases I regret isn't entirely accurate, but how I feel about them today is real, regardless of how they came into my home. Most of these prints were made by people I don't know anything about. I don't know their process, their intention, or what they were trying to say. And without that connection, the prints start to feel decorative for decoration's sake, hung there simply because a wall existed to hang them on. Lately, I've been returning to painting, and the only art on my walls now is my own. Some of it comes from trips, attempts to capture a feeling or an impression a place left on me, filtered entirely through how I chose to interpret it. I know not everyone has a background in painting, and that's not really the point I'm making. The point is that even a worn poster picked up on a trip abroad would carry more meaning than something bought online purely to fill a wall. Given the choice now, I'd rather leave the wall empty. I've bought and worn a fair amount of Thom Browne over the years, and this regret isn't about the designer or what he's built. A full Thom Browne look, worn head to toe with intention, still strikes me as one of the more commanding and elegant statements a wardrobe can make. The issue is what the label signals when you put it on. The design language is distinct enough that it's difficult to wear without it becoming the loudest thing about you, whether or not that's your intention. It's not the stripes, it's not even the cut. It's the identity that comes attached to the garment before you've decided anything about your own. I've sold most of my Thom Browne pieces at this point. I kept one pair of chino trousers and one cotton hoodie, and I still wear them occasionally. They're less about styling now and more about reminding myself I still appreciate the design, just not at the scale I once collected it. 8 years ago, I bought a full-grain leather backpack from Paul Smith. I stopped using it after about 3 years, and it sat untouched for 5 more. Making this video is actually what reminded me to finally sell it. This isn't a practicality argument. Backpacks are genuinely useful, and I'm not disputing that. It's purely a stylistic shift. These days I reach for a crossbody or a duffel when I travel, a tote for casual errands, a sling bag for the smaller in-between moments. Those shapes fit how I actually move through a day. A backpack, with all its structure and compartments, asks me to use capacity and organization I don't really need. That's not a universal statement. It depends entirely on your routine, your work, what you carry day to day. For my life right now, a backpack just isn't part of it anymore. I hate including this one, because I'm genuinely a huge fan of Loewe, but I wanted to love this wool scarf, and I just can't. The design is simple, almost basic, and that was never the problem. The material is. It's 48% mohair and 46% wool, and mohair is known for being scratchy. I should have paid closer attention to that composition before buying it. On top of the itch, it sheds constantly, more than my dog does. I'd get hair caught in my mouth every time I wore it, and eventually I just put it away entirely during a trip to Iceland earlier this year, which was the one trip where I actually needed it most. A scarf's entire job is to keep you warm and comfortable, and this one did the opposite. I didn't return it in time because I didn't realize how uncomfortable it was until I was already in Iceland with no other scarf packed. The lesson here is simple. Certain products need to be felt in person before you commit, no matter how much you trust the name behind them. I was too confident in Loewe, and that confidence is exactly what let the details slip past me. Looking at all 10 of these together, the reasons repeat more than I expected them to. Some of it was trend pulling me further than intention ever asked me to go. The common projects, the Cooee vases, buying more variations of something because they looked good side by side, not because I needed each one. Some of it was identity, the biker jacket, and the Thom Browne pieces, where I was buying into a version of myself rather than the version I actually was. Some of it was simply time. My tastes changed, my habits changed, and the YSL wallet and the backpack became reminders of who I used to be rather than who I am now. A few of it came down to trusting price or a name over the actual experience of using the thing, the rain boots, the Aesop moisturizer, the Loewe scarf, where I let reputation stand in for research. And the art prints reminded me that meaning doesn't come from an object existing in your home. It comes from your relationship to it, the story behind it, or the story you're able to tell yourself about why it's there. If there's one thread through all of this, it's that regret rarely comes from spending money. It comes from spending it without asking who I actually was and what I actually needed at the moment I reached for my wallet. If this resonated with you, I'd love for you to consider subscribing. Not for the numbers, but because if this way of looking at what we own and why makes sense to you, there's more of it here. As always, live with intention.